Marcus Vale had learned 3 immutable truths in his 15 years as an environmental systems engineer. First, air recyclers always failed at the worst possible moment. Second, oil stains on dress shirts were apparently permanent, despite what detergent companies promised. And third, he possessed an almost supernatural ability to look underdressed at formal events, even when he specifically rented appropriate attire. All 3 were proving disastrously accurate as he stood in the crystalline grandeur of Celestia Prime's throne room, tugging at a collar that seemed designed for humans who did not require oxygen. The annual convergence had transformed the palace into a mix of a diplomatic summit and an impossibly extravagant cocktail party. Representatives from 47 star systems crowded the hall, their myriad physiologies forming a fascinating cross-section of evolutionary possibility. The Karathi delegation, breathing methane, arrived in full environmental suits and found oxygen mildly offensive. The Silene ambassador kept her gills moist with a portable humidifier, ticking softly like a metronome. 3 delegates from the chorus collective argued with themselves in perfect, 3-part harmony about the proper ceremonial greeting protocol. Marcus, representing humanity, by virtue of his company winning the palace environmental upgrade contract, and his supervisor's decision that someone technical should attend, felt spectacularly out of place. He'd positioned himself near a decorative column of what appeared to be solidified light, attempting the delicate balance of being present but invisible, so as to satisfy corporate obligations without requiring actual conversation. The column pulsed with bioluminescence, cycling warm colors and patterns that undoubtedly meant something to the Celestians but struck Marcus as astonishingly similar to the loading screen on his diagnostic tablet. The Celestians themselves commanded attention effortlessly. Humanoid in basic configuration, they moved with a grace that suggested a low-gravity, evolutionary past. Their most striking feature, however, was their ears, long, tapered, and capable of independent movement. Marcus had watched a court official track 3 separate conversations simultaneously, each ear swiveling toward different speakers, while maintaining a 4th discussion herself. Human hearing seemed like listening to music underwater in comparison. Queen Viandra presided from a throne that appeared carved from a single, massive opal. Its surface shifted through pearlescent colors as light struck it from varying angles. Her silver-white hair shimmered like starlight caught in ice, and her amber eyes were the warm hue of preserved tree sap. She carried authority like one carries clothing, naturally without effort. Beside her stood Princess Listen, a small figure trapped in ceremonial robes that looked heavier than she was, her expression one of grim determination as if enduring a sentence. Her hair was the black of space between stars, her tiny, pointed ears twitching in barely suppressed fidgeting. The ceremony proceeded with all the enthusiasm one would expect from mandatory diplomatic ritual. Ambassador Thielvik of the Northern Trading Consortium droned on about tariff regulations for 17 minutes, his 3 voice boxes producing harmonics that made even customs documentation sound portentous. Marcus, as always, relied on mental calculation to survive such boredom. He estimated air circulation dynamics, accounting for intake vents, exhaust ports, thermal stratification, and the varied respiratory needs of dozens of species. Polite attention in humans is one thing, doing useful engineering in one's mind while nodding convincingly was another. Then Princess Listen's head snapped sideways like a targeting computer achieving lock. Her ears swiveled forward with precision, making nearby courtiers twitch nervously. Marcus, mid-calculation of air pressure differentials, didn't immediately realize she was staring at him directly through the assembly of 200 dignitaries. And then she ran, not with regal dignity, but a full sprint, her ceremonial robes flying behind her like a cape designed without aerodynamics in mind. Representatives parted in waves of confusion. Ambassador Thielvik's 3 voice boxes fell silent sequentially. The tray of drinks an attendant carried froze midair, the glasses somehow perfectly level, as if physics itself had paused. Marcus had perhaps 2 seconds to comprehend what was happening before Listen collided with him, arms flinging around his waist with the full enthusiasm only a child, or a very friendly dog, could manage. "It's you. It's the nice man." Her voice was muffled against his jacket. The room descended into a stunned silence. Every eye bore down on him, a collective weight of diplomatic incident pressing into his chest. His mind, usually reliable in crises, offered nothing useful. Somewhere, a memory surfaced. 3 weeks ago, at the orbital station's public market, on a lunch break between client meetings, a small child had been crying by the fountain, lost in a crowd. He had sat with her. He had told stories about work disasters, like venting an entire deck's atmosphere accidentally, or mixing coffee and waste recycling with unexpectedly amusing results, until she laughed. 15 minutes of basic human decency. That scared child had been Princess Listen, and she remembered. Queen Viandra descended from her throne like a glacier sliding into place, slow-moving, powerful, impossible to interrupt. Her expression remained carefully neutral, which Marcus instinctively read as far more dangerous than visible anger. At least with anger, you knew where you stood. This blank calculation suggested she was deciding his fate. Listen, of course, made no move to release her grip, pressing closer as if Marcus himself were a lifeline. The Queen stopped 3 paces away, ears perfectly still, voice calm and clear, every syllable echoing through the throne room. "Mr. Vale," she said. Not a question. He had been identified immediately. "You will accompany me to a private audience." Immediately. Marcus attempted a bow while Listen clung to him, achieving neither objective gracefully. "Mother," Listen chirped, "this is the nice man I told you about from the station. He told me about the broken coffee machine and the cold people." Queen Viandra's voice softened fractionally, but her eyes never left Marcus. "We will discuss that. You may come with us." The walk through the palace corridors felt like a condemned prisoner's final march, except the prisoner had a cheerful 6-year-old holding his hand and chattering nonstop. Guards flanked them, calculating lethal possibilities with terrifying precision. Marcus focused on architectural details to avoid panicking. Walls of crystalline curves that seemed to grow organically, bioluminescent veins pulsing soft light, air circulation calibrated perfectly for multiple species. In the private chamber, Marcus sat awkwardly as Listen climbed into his lap. Queen Viandra gestured calmly. "Explain exactly what happened at the market 3 weeks ago." Marcus swallowed dryly. "I was on my lunch break. I saw her crying. I didn't just walk past. I sat with her, told her stories about work disasters, until she laughed." Listen, perched on his lap, eagerly jumped in. "He told me about when he made all the air go away and everyone got really cold. And the coffee machine," the Queen's amber eyes flicked between them, ears tilting subtly. "You didn't recognize her?" "No," Marcus said, almost stumbling over his words. "I'd only been on Celestia Prime 2 days. I just saw a scared child and tried to help." Viandra's gaze softened fractionally. She does not typically display such trust. The royal tutors consider caution appropriate. And yet, she spoke of you for 3 weeks, drew pictures, declared she wanted to learn engineering because of you. Marcus glanced down at Listen, dozing against his chest. "I just didn't want her to be alone. It seemed the bare minimum of being decent." "You saw a scared child and told jokes until she laughed," Viandra said, the weight of her words making him swallow. "Most people would have seen opportunity, political leverage, or ransom potential. You saw a child." Marcus shrugged. "I'm a terrible actor. Can't lie to save my life." Viandra's lips twitched, almost a smile. "That is becoming apparent." A guard knocked. "Your Majesty, Princess Listen's attendants are concerned about her schedule." "She will not resume lessons today," Viandra said firmly, her eyes flicking to the sleeping child. "She has clearly decided you're staying." She looked at Marcus. "Your company won the environmental systems contract. Would you serve as on-site project engineer? It would require residence here, and accepting that my daughter has adopted you." Marcus blinked. "You want me to live here?" "Yes," Viandra said, her voice layered with meanings he did not fully understand. "To determine if her instincts about you are correct." He glanced at Listen. She had a mischievous curl in her lip even in sleep. "I guess I should request my things be sent over." 2 weeks later, Marcus was fully settled in the palace guest wing. Luxurious, grown furniture, impossibly strong water pressure, and a view over crystalline gardens replaced his cramped cargo container life. He was 3 levels deep in the palace maintenance infrastructure, diagnosing an air circulation hub when he heard a familiar voice. "Marcus, are you down there? I can hear you thinking about air." Listen peered through the maintenance hatch, dark hair framing her small face. "Can I come down?" He hesitated only a moment. "There's a ladder 2 meters to your left. Be careful." She descended fearlessly and immediately began absorbing the workings of environmental systems, ears swiveling with the precision of a living sensor array. Marcus explained airflow patterns, pressure differentials, filtration for different atmospheres, and why mixing methane and oxygen could be very exciting. Exciting explosions. Listen added helpfully. 20 minutes later, the palace was in a mild panic as Listen's tutor, guards, and attendants arrived. Marcus defused the situation by presenting the lesson as an educational opportunity, and the Chancellor, Lord Avok, was both skeptical and impressed. "You are either a remarkably bad influence or exactly what she needs," he said. "I just like teaching," Marcus replied. "She asks good questions." Avok considered him, then smiled briefly. "Keep teaching her, but inform her tutors before she vanishes into maintenance shafts again." Evenings became informal dinners. Listen monopolized conversation with technical details, Viandra's expressions cycling between amusement, exasperation, and soft warmth. Marcus realized something fundamental. His presence made the princess happier, lighter, and more curious. And Viandra, while cautious, trusted his intentions implicitly. Months later, an emergency alert shattered the calm. Intruders had breached the palace via maintenance tunnels. Marcus acted immediately, mapping hostile movement, altering atmospheric flows to slow them, and personally guiding Listen through secret passages to safety. By the time palace security engaged the attackers, Marcus and the princess were safe. Viandra's gratitude was clear in her amber eyes, as was something else: vulnerability, trust, and recognition of his worth to the family. She offered him a permanent role, chief environmental engineer with full access to palace systems. "I want to see what happens if we stop pretending this is temporary," she said. "Sometimes children see what adults are too careful to notice. You're exactly what this family needed." Marcus, once a visitor expecting a routine contract job, found himself adopted by a princess, trusted by a queen, and deeply invested in a family that had become his own. He realized that the best engineering projects weren't about fixing broken systems, they were about creating spaces where people could breathe easier and trust could flourish. From inside, they heard Listen calling excitedly with a new pressure differential calculation. Marcus glanced at Viandra. "Duty calls," he said. "It always does," she agreed, smiling as they stepped back into the palace together.